believe today's Hainanese dish comes straight from Chef Justin's family vault, a recipe from his mom. And I think that's very much in line with Potluck Hawker Eatery's theme of sharing our stories, cultures, and inspiration through food. Okay, well, thank you so much for being with us here today, Chef Justin. Let me just spotlight you so everyone can see your beautiful setup. Can you tell us a little bit more about this dish?
Yeah, it's just a simple chicken dish, really utilizing the whole part of the chicken. So we poach the whole chicken, and we debone it, and we use the bones to fortify the stock. And so it becomes essentially a master stock. So you can continue using this over and over, cook it a couple times a week. You can keep the broth in the freezer. We render the fat to make the rice and a little bit of the stock as well. So it's really just a simple dish that highlights the chicken.
Nice. And a big theme of the restaurant and a lot of what you've done so far has kind of revolved around the idea of potluck. I see that as a theme in the takeout menu too. Can you tell us a little bit about why?
Yeah, so essentially the idea of a potluck is, and obviously we can't do that as much nowadays, but eating together, sharing together stories, and being a community together. And that shows as well in our style of food, which draws from different influences from different parts of Asia, specifically Southeast Asia. My mom's roots from Malaysia, Singapore, all the way to Philippines, Burma, Vietnam. So really, the idea of a potluck is bringing different dishes together. It's about trying to create a very bold flavor, but at the same time, it's not trying to say like this is the only way we can cook something. There's many different ways. Even in a single country, there's many different regions, and they do things in many different ways. So we try to utilize as much like local ingredients as we can at the restaurant, but also incorporate a lot of traditional techniques.
And one more question before we roll up our sleeves. From Calvin, we have a question: will this dish be on the potluck menu?
That's a really good question, Calvin. I've had a lot of people ask about that, and right now, fingers crossed, it's going to be on the initial menu.
All right, let's get started.
Sure. So I hope everyone has, how many people are cooking with us today?
Can we?
Like 55.
So for those who are cooking live with us, hopefully everyone has their stock boiling and ready to go. So I'll just kind of free do it here. So obviously I have my chicken stock here. This you can use a house, you can make it at home, your own chicken stock from your own bones, or you can use some water and a little bit of bouillon powder, or even some canned or Tetra Pak Campbell's is okay as well. So. The key is the more you make it, you're really gonna introduce a little bit more flavor, and you're gonna create a master stock that you can continue using. So I have my stock boiling. Let me just shift can you just let me know if you can't see anything? So this is boiling now, and we're gonna add a few key ingredients. So we just have some shallots, some ginger, and garlic. So we're just gonna add some of those into the broth. And those go. And then now we have salted this chicken overnight, or at least close to 24 hours, and which helps to tighten the meat up and introduce a little bit of flavor. So we're just going to drop this into the broth here as well.
And can you expand a little bit on what you mean by master stock?
Yeah, so that's just a broth that you're just going to keep using over and over again, and it's pretty much a broth that never dies. Because you're gonna keep using it, and it's gonna get more and more flavor of the chicken and all the aromatics. And every time you boil it, you poach more chicken in it, and you save all the bones. So that really becomes part of the master stock. So I forgot that step, but if you can cut a little bit of chicken fat from the skin of the fat of the chicken and just keep it aside. We're gonna use that for the rice later. Yeah, sorry if you can't see me a little bit. The sink is behind me, so I gotta wash my hands.
I have a question from Lindsay asking if she's using a ginger paste, does she put the green onions into the broth?
You can just use like whatever you got. So even just like if you have a little bit of ginger paste, you could put a little bit of that into the broth is okay. So we're gonna let this stock boil and all the chicken as well. Bring it to a boil.
And from Janie, I'm getting, do I need to rinse the salt off the chicken before putting it in?
You can, like, depends on how much salt you like. For me, if it's just overnight, I like a little bit of that salt, and especially my broth is in season right now, so it'll add a little bit of flavor to the chicken stock, which we're gonna cook the rice in afterwards. So, I mean, a lot of it's really up to you, up to your flavor, including like when we make the green onion sauce. Some people like a little bit more green onion, some people like a little bit more ginger. So just really feel free to change it to however your taste is. So we have that going. We're gonna boil for about 5 minutes. And then after 5 minutes, we're gonna shut it off and let it just poach in that liquid. So I'll wait till it comes to a boil first. So next thing is we're gonna make a little bit of the rice.
I have a question from Samson who joined us a little bit later, and they say, do we put in the ginger and shallot in with the chicken right now and the green onion?
You can put a little bit of it, but we're gonna reserve some of it to make the sauce later. So if you have a little bit extra, feel free to add a little bit into the master stock. I'm just gonna pull out, so there should be about 2 liters of stock in there. I'm just gonna pull out about 500 mils, and we're gonna use that to cook the rice. So now that the chicken is up to boil, we're just gonna put a timer for 5 minutes. Timer for 5 minutes.
Okay, 5 minutes and counting.
And we can put a lid on it and just turn it down to about medium. And then we're gonna start prepping for the chicken rice. So here I have about 2 cups of rice. So this is 2 rice cups. It's different than your baking cups. So each cup is about 180 milliliters. So here's about 360 milliliters. So we're gonna wash it just in water and rinse it a couple times. And I'll be back. So when we're washing rice, we're just washing a little bit of the cloudiness out of it, but a lot of it is good nutrition. So you don't really need for it to be completely crystal clear. So we're just gonna do a couple times and then just rinse out the water. So here's the rice, we've drained that.
And do you have any words of inspiration for people who might have never tried cooking before? Or I'm getting some comments here saying, you know, I've never done anything like cooking related before.
Yeah, so this is I think quite a forgivable dish. You can just play around with just cooking the chicken and even just some regular rice, or you can shred the meat later on and use it in salads. So I would just recommend if you're a little bit scared about making the rice, and if you have a rice cooker that helps. I don't have a rice cooker, so we're just gonna make on the stove. So I'll show you a different method as well. But yeah, I mean it's just really poaching the chicken is really simple, and I'll show you one way that is kind of flawless and yeah, quite forgivable.
Since this is your mom's recipe, it seems like maybe a lot of that learning happened for you at home, or where were some of your inspirations to learn how to cook?
Yeah, I just learned to cook from home, a little bit of travel as well. I studied cooking at VCC. So traditionally, like, learn how to cook French food and Italian food until about 9, 10 years ago. Then I started, I was really interested in understanding more about Asian food. So for the chicken rice, we're gonna use a little bit of garlic. We're going to use a little bit of ginger as well. You can grate it or however you like. So if you have pre-grated, that's okay. And if you're missing a couple ingredients, it's really not a big deal. All the flavor is going to come from the chicken. So for the chicken rice, we're using a little bit of shallots. We're using a little bit of garlic and ginger. And if you have a little bit of extra trim and you don't have any use for it, feel free to just throw in your chicken stock.
And you were talking a little bit about aromatics earlier. Can you tell us a little bit about what that means?
Yeah, so especially with a chicken rice, you really want the clean flavor of the chicken. We only accent it with like some ginger and garlic and different, you can use different spices as well. Like sometimes people like to put a little bit of clove in the rice or star anise. So it's really up to your discretion, but essentially it's just gonna help to bring out the natural flavors as well. So right now we're just gonna slightly fry the rice as well. So there's a 5-minute timer. So I just shut off the chicken right now. It's in the pot and it just has a lid on it. And I literally just turned off the heat and it's gonna sit there and gently poach. So when I was talking about this dish being very forgivable, it really deals with like very minimal cooking. So you use a little bit of heat in the beginning, but you let the gentleness of the water and the broth to really continue to cook the chicken. Right now, we're gonna start with the rice. So I have a little bit of the chicken skin that I reserved here. We're just gonna have a pan with a little bit of oil. I mean, if you have all chicken fat lying around, then you can use that as well.
And we have a question from Calvin asking, besides your mom, who are some of your culinary inspirations?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. I obviously grew up eating a lot of French food in the past. So inspirations include like Thomas Keller, Daniel Boulud, a lot of restaurateurs from New York. So right now I'm sauteing a little bit of garlic, shallot, and ginger. with a little bit more oil. And we're just using about a medium heat. We just want to make sure that the onions and garlic and ginger are all fragrant. And then now we're just going to add all the rice as well. Just going to lightly fry the rice in this fat, this flavored fat. Just for about, just for a couple of minutes.
When do we know when it's done?
So as you can see, I drained the water, but I mean, you can drain it with a strainer, but it's gonna dry out a little bit. And it's gonna smell really fragrant.
Watching all of you cook, I wish I could smell your through the screen.
How many people are cooking?
I see maybe, I see at least 5 kitchens, 6 kitchens.
Oh, that's awesome.
I think a lot are taking notes for later.
Great, yeah. Oh, I forgot to put a timer. So if you haven't, you could put a 35 to 45 minute timer for your chicken. Timer for 30 minutes. So I think it's been already about 5 minutes.
Your timer is set for 30 minutes.
So yeah, I put a timer for about 30 more minutes. So see how that goes. So now I think the rice has been coated nicely with all that delicious fat. We're gonna season it a little bit with salt. And it depends how much salt you like. So my chicken stock doesn't have much salt in it right now, so I'm gonna season the rice.
I think I have a devouring diner that was asking if the rice was pre-cooked. I believe we did this in the spot, didn't we?
Yes, so I just washed the rice a couple times, drained it, and then we're just frying the rice while it's kind of raw, in the raw state. We're gonna transfer the rice now into just a small pot. And this is where we'll continue to steam the rice. If you know, if this step kind of intimidates you a little bit, you can absolutely just cook the rice with a nice chicken stock, and you'll have a very similar effect.
And I have a Nadia that wants to let you know they're cooking it in real time too.
Perfect. Okay, so this is the 500 milliliters of chicken stock that I reserved. We're just going to pour it directly into the rice. And then we're just going to put this back on the stove at a medium heat. So if you're just cooking this rice with just some canned chicken broth, I think you don't need to stir the rice. But I find when you have the chicken fat, it kind of cooks unevenly. So what I like to do is just stir the rice once in a while until all the moisture has been absorbed at a medium heat. And then when it looks almost dry, then I cover it and I let it continue to steam on low heat for about 12 more minutes. Okay, so I'll bring the camera a little bit closer to the chicken broth. So hopefully you can see it a little bit. Okay, so here we just literally have the chicken rice and some of the broth here. And we're just gonna give it a little bit of a mix so that the fat incorporates into the rice as it's cooking. Otherwise, what happens is the fat will all float to the top and the rice on the top gets dry and uncooked. And if you like, you can just even taste the stock a little bit to make sure that it's seasoned with a little bit of salt. The next step we're gonna do is gonna make the green onion and ginger sauce.
I know you mentioned as a part of the takeout menu, you choose according to seasonal vegetables and ingredients. I know we're using shallots and green onions today, but what kind of seasonal vegetables can we find in your kitchen right now?
Yeah, so obviously right now it's a little bit trickier to get seasonal ingredients sometimes unless you go to the farmer's market. But for example, like even locally, we have a lot of water spinach that comes available in the next few months. Stuff like spot prawn season is coming or might be here already. I haven't really gone to the store, so I'm not really sure. In the winter, we use a lot more squash. You can stir fry anything too as well. So, but definitely, when it's safe out there, check out and support the farmers markets.
So I'm just getting a request to just clarify a little bit about the rice.
Yes.
And how long are we cooking it if we're cooking it the way that you showed us?
Yeah, so if you're using a rice cooker, literally just turn it on and let it do its work. But if you're going to use a little pot, I have it right now on a medium heat. As you can see, it's kind of, it's still bubbling. And you can see that the rice is slowly starting to absorb the broth. So we're gonna let that cook for about another couple minutes. And once it looks like it's starting to absorb most of the liquid, we'll put a lid on it and then we'll cover it and turn on low heat for 12 more minutes. And then after that, we're gonna turn it off. I'll walk you step by step through it. And then we'll allow it to continue to rest. And then we'll fluff it up with a fork or chopsticks. So right now, looks like it's about 70% absorbed. Gonna give it another stir or two.
And you were kind of talking about quarantine and affecting our practices in the kitchen right now. I have a question from Alfie asking for the veggies. Should they wash it in like a dish soap or just baking soda and water, or what goes on in your kitchen?
Yeah, for me, I usually just wash it with just some water. I know I've heard some people use a little bit of detergent, but I wouldn't recommend that. Just a good scrub. I mean, if you're cooking your vegetables as well, I think, I'm not sure exactly how the coronavirus is being transmitted, but I think it's less common in food. So mostly the safety practices you should try doing at home is when you buy your groceries, just wipe down any kind of hard surfaces. So right now the rice is seems like it's mostly absorbed. Are you able to see that a little bit?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're just gonna put a lid on it and turn it to very low setting, around like around 1 out of 10, and it's gonna bubble away. And we'll put a timer for about 12 minutes and let that steam.
And AW wants to know if they can throw in veggies in the rice, like gailan.
Yeah, I mean, so I wouldn't recommend steaming it right now, but if you have a double steamer, you can definitely put some vegetables on the steamer side. Or you can kind of put them near the ends. Like once we cook it to about 90%, you can chop some vegetables up, throw it in, and keep a lid on it and let it continue to steam. So we're just gonna leave that alone. Sorry, I only have one timer, Allison. Are you able to put a timer for 12 minutes?
I sure can.
Perfect. Okay. So we're gonna make the ginger and scallion condiment. So right here I have a small pot. I'm gonna use this to heat up a little bit of vegetable oil, and then we're gonna kind of wilt the ginger and scallions into a nice sauce. It's almost like an oil condiment. It gives a little nice richness to the chicken later. Okay, so there's two ways you can do. You can, if you have a small little food processor, you can just blitz it a few times, which is usually what my mom used to do when we were growing up. In this case, I'm gonna show you a way you can also just very finely slice the green onions, and we're gonna cook it into the sauce that way. So sorry, I didn't mention, but this sauce is really good. So I've actually doubled up from what the recipe says. So this is 2 stalks of green onion, and we're gonna use about 4 tablespoons of oil. The sauce will keep about 5 days.
And I have a question from Lynn asking, do you primarily use vegetable oil or grapeseed oil for this dish?
Either is okay. You definitely want a neutral oil, so grapeseed oil would be okay as well. I wouldn't use, you know, something like olive oil because you don't want that bitterness. Okay, so we have the green onions there.
And for everyone that's interested, we do have this recipe right now on our Facebook event page. So I'm just going to go ahead and paste that into the chat. And I do have a question from Crystal saying, are we adding garlic in this particular mixture you're making right now?
Not in the sauce, no. So you can just grate some ginger or use some grated ginger. If you like more ginger and you like that floral spiciness, then you know, you can feel free to double up the ginger. It's however you like the sauce. And you can also chop up the ginger, it's the same thing, or use a food processor.
Aside from speed, do you find a difference in using hand chop or a food processor and kind of texture or how the ingredients take on?
Sure, yeah. In a food processor, you're still bruising all the ingredients, so you're extracting a lot of flavor as well. You could use a mortar and pestle as well. That will create a different texture, more of a paste. In this, recently, I mean, there's a million different ways of making this. I really like using the green onion in a fine kind of chopped up way like that, because I find it has a really nice texture with this kind of the silkiness of the chicken. now we have our mixture ready. And we're gonna put about 4 tablespoons of oil. And we're gonna heat this on the stove. There's actually another simple way to make this sauce that my mom used to make at home. So she would just take all the ingredients, add the salt and add the oil, put a cling film over it, and I think microwave it for about 30 seconds. You pretty much want that hot oil to sizzle and to make a really nice flavorful oil. But we're gonna do it on the stove here. So I'll bring the laptop a little bit closer.
And I think for a lot of either immigrant children or people from immigrant families might really recognize this sauce in a whole bunch of different chicken recipes and different Southeastern Asian recipes.
Yeah.
Does this sauce make it into anything else in the potluck kitchen?
I think for this sauce, we would primarily just use it for the chicken. There's a lot of different variations of it as well. Hainan chicken is found in Thailand, Vietnam, Singapore, Malaysia, all over the map. So each country has their own different way. Each region in each country has its own way. There's also a famous Thai dish called khao man gai, and they use a lot of fermented soybeans. So it's a slightly different sauce, a lot of pickled ginger and pickled garlic.
It's fascinating. And I think it's interesting to see the different kinds of regions based on what grows there, or also who's on their trade route and what kind of relationships countries have that really foster these kind of widely known favorites.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have a question from Calvin wanting to know what other dishes will be on the potluck menu.
Yeah, and we're still testing it out, so just stay tuned to our Instagram, and we'll post a little bit more as we go. But most likely, we will have some different stir fries, some salads, and we're also going to incorporate a part of the menu, which is called a potluck. So that one is going to feature kind of a family-style tasting menu that has, a couple main dishes and couple condiments and some rice, and that's going to be kind of a set menu that you can order for takeout for a family of 2 or 4, and we're even going to have a kind of a bento size tasting as well.
And Janie wants to know if the green onion is in the oil already. She looked away for one moment.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah. So right now I just have some hot oil. You can't see, but it's pretty hot. And we're just going to add the mixture here. And just like all the other steps, there's not a lot of actual cooking. So we heat up the oil, and we take it off the heat, and it's going to do the rest by just putting it straight in here. You can probably hear the sizzling. So right now we're just frying the green onion and the ginger into the sauce. We're gonna add some salt, about a teaspoon, and a little bit extra if you like. And yeah, essentially that sauce is done. So we're gonna set it aside and continue to check on the chicken and the rice.
I have a question from Nadia, or Nadia, yes. At what part do we use the pandan and the sesame oil? And we really hope we didn't miss it.
Oh yeah, sorry, that's my bad. I probably missed it myself because I couldn't find any pandan. But you can put it in your chicken stock. So if you still have your chicken poaching right now, feel free to tie it in a couple knots and just throw it straight in. How much time do we have left on the rice, Allison?
Yep, we have 1 more minute.
Yeah, so you can see there's a couple of tricks to make sure your rice is cooking properly, but I'm not sure if you can really see it, but you can hear that it's on a low heat, but there's a little bit of a bubbling noise, and then you can see the steam is trying to escape as well. So once that timer is up, we're going to actually turn it off, and it's going to continue cooking for the next couple of minutes as well. And after that, we can fluff it up. At this point, I think the chicken is probably about 5 minutes away. You can get a medium-sized bowl with a little bit of ice or cold water, and we're gonna, when the chicken's ready, we're gonna just shock it in cold water. So that helps to release the gelatin underneath the skin of the chicken and really give it a nice kind of texture.
Okay, I think we're at 20 more seconds and the rice is done.
Excellent. So yeah, just shut off your rice and it'll continue cooking for the next couple minutes.
And Nancy wants to know, so all this time the chicken has been sitting off the heat and just letting the residual heat slowly cook itself?
That's correct. So you can also do this with a whole chicken. The whole chicken would probably take a little bit longer. You'd want to make sure that the hot stock goes into the cavity, and so you want to move it around. And that one you probably leave for about an hour as well, with a lid on it after 5 minutes of boiling. So we have some cold water and just a little bit of ice. If you don't have ice, just use cold water is okay. Let's check the time on the chicken. So we still got about 8 minutes. Yeah, does anyone have any questions? I think that was a good time. We have a little bit of extra time here.
So if anybody wants to shoot their question, please put your hand up to the camera like this, just like Janie is, and we'll unmute you one at a time, just so we can hear one another. Go ahead, Janie.
Hey, Justin. So I used a few more chicken legs than the few that you used.
Yeah.
Did I leave my chicken to cook a little longer, or does it make a difference? I just have drumsticks.
Sure. Is it quite submerged? Are you able to show the pot chicken?
Yeah, I can show you. Can you see it? So it's submerged, but not completely.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you can leave it for a couple more minutes if you're not too certain, but I think it should be okay. So we got about 7 more minutes.
Thank you.
Okay.
It should be okay because those are just drumsticks. I think the ones I have is with the legs and thighs attached. So as long as it came up to a boil, and we're going to continue to cook that process for about 40 minutes, it should be just right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So meanwhile, I'm just cutting some cucumber as well, just for garnish, which is just a traditional garnish for it. You can use any kind of fresh vegetables, or even some lettuce. If you're able to get some winter melon, I usually like to put that into the broth. So as I was kind of talking about the process of using the whole chicken for this this chicken rice dish, we even use the bones to make a nice broth, and it kind of really helps to kind of wash everything down with a really nice aromatic flavor of the chicken. I'm just gonna cut some cucumber, and I'm gonna cut some winter-melon after that, and we're gonna cook it into the soup.
We have a question from the chat asking, what are the pros and cons of using factory chicken versus free range?
Of course, the flavor will be a little bit different, but really just use whatever, I mean, nowadays, really use whatever you're able to find.
And Nadia wants to know, what is your favorite part of the Star Wars franchise? And may the 4th be with you. Thank you for the cute recipe name.
Yeah, I think there's a new one on and anyone has the Disney Channel. I think they're releasing the most recent Rise of Skywalker, right? So I like them all. To be honest, I'm not like a diehard fan, but I've been recently watching them all and getting into all the series and trying to introduce my kids to them as well. So that one day, like, I think, you know, they can go to the amusement parks and know everything about it in Disneyland and stuff. So one day that'll happen.
And we also have a question from Gladys. She says, hey, my mom wants to know why you don't have a rice cooker.
Yeah, we don't have too much space, I guess. And I think my wife asked that same question, but you know, recently I taught her it's quite easy to cook rice on the stove. So, I mean, obviously it's a little bit safer. You know, if you have kids and you're running around a little bit, you don't have to keep an eye on the stove. But it's quite easy to make rice on this. It's quite relaxing, and I really enjoy doing it the old way.
And I see Eddie has his hand up. Hi, Eddie.
So I know Jackson have a kid. I know Jackson's a good dad. Is Jackson, how old are you?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 37.
But there's two Jackson. I know a friend Jackson, and he's a staff Jackson. You're a staff.
Oh,
Yeah.
Justin's not staff, Eddie. Justin is a chef in Vancouver.
I know there's two Jackson. One is a participant Jackson.
Yeah, there's a participant Justin too.
But Jackson have how many brothers and sisters? Does Jackson have how many brothers and sisters?
For me?
How many siblings?
Yeah, I have one brother.
Younger.
Younger brother, yes.
How many brothers and sisters?
Oh, sorry. Were you mute?
How many siblings you have, Allison? How many siblings?
I don't have any, so I get all the chicken. So this one is from Charlene. Oops, almost missed Alfie. He says sometimes he microwaves the rice. If you're super lazy, there's a hack for you.
I didn't even know that trick, but I guess you can microwave anything. Yeah, like I was explaining, like my mom used to just microwave the sauce. So you just put the oil and the ginger paste with the scallions, and I think it's about 30 or 40 seconds. You hear it sizzling, and yeah, add the salt. That's it.
And I also have a comment from Charlene who says, who here has watched the rise of the Skywalker? I know I have. Anyways, may the 4th be with you all. Until next time.
Yeah, I've seen it. Has everyone else seen it? I'm planning to watch it again tonight. Okay, so I think we got 2 more minutes on the chicken. So have time for one more question, and then we're gonna take the chicken out, cool it down.
All right, I think last question belongs to David in the chat. Wishing you all the best, Chef Justin, and wondering if plans are proceeding for Potluck Hawker Eatery opening in a month or 2. We're missing your food and looking forward to seeing you on Canby and to travel out to New West.
Yeah, we are hoping to open early June, I think. Maybe if we're lucky, end of May, but we'll probably be testing everything pretty soon. Right now, we're still doing some renovations, but the good thing is all the equipment is scheduled to ship next week. So we should get our hands on that and get into the kitchen and start testing some stuff out and cooking. So I think by latest early June. Okay, so I think that's about 40 minutes for the chicken. So it smells good already. You can tell that the chicken has been submerged in this beautiful liquid. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to take it out and we're just going to let it chill in some cold water. And so there's a lot of gelatin and fat underneath the skin of the chicken. That's all going to come out. And we'll probably cut in about 5 to 10 minutes. If the water starts to get warm again, you can just put some new cold water underneath it. Next, we're going to make the chicken soup. Actually, before we do that, so now that the rice has been fully steamed, what I usually like to do is let the rice rest for about 2 to 5 minutes. And then we just fluff it up so it gets really nice. Fragrant. And we're going to let it sit for another few minutes.
And we have a question from Jennifer who wants to know, outside of cooking, do you have any other hobbies?
Yeah, I really like to stay indoors these days. I do play, I try to play some guitar, but I haven't played. Since I had kids, you know, my hobbies are really just looking after them and running around, and that's my exercise. Yeah, I used to play a little bit of hockey. I'm a goalie, so yeah, I miss doing that, you know, like I haven't been playing for a couple months now. And yeah, obviously cooking at home has been a recent hobby. Like everyone thinks that, you know, as chefs, like, you know, we cook for our families all the time, but, you know, the majority of our time we're spent laboring in the kitchen and managing restaurants and stuff. So it's actually been quite fun to cook at home for once in a while. And, you know, I've been married for 10 years and my wife's like, oh, I finally get to eat your food at home. So that's, yeah, it's a recent hobby, I guess. But hopefully the restaurant gets up and going. But till then, I'm just enjoying spending a lot of family time, playing a little bit of guitar and just playing hockey with a little ball and a kid's net at home. Okay, so we're gonna cut a little bit of winter melon. A little piece here, so I'm just gonna slice this up and we're gonna just cook into the soup as well.
And Charlene wants to know, what's your most favorite hockey team in the NHL?
I really am a big hockey fan. So, I mean, I grew up, born and raised in Vancouver. So, of course, the Vancouver Canucks are my favorite team. But there was a time when the Canucks were not really good after their run to the Stanley Cup in '94. So I did cheer on Dallas Stars for quite a bit. But I'm just a really big hockey fan. So, I mean, right now I just miss watching hockey and I could watch any game on TV.
And Janie wants to know, can she substitute anything for the winter melon?
Yeah, absolutely. Any kind of cool vegetable, like even cucumbers or green papaya would work as well. But the broth is just really nice and simple by itself. You can even just put in a little bit of extra ginger, and just some people like it with a lot of white pepper. So it just depends on your flavor and your taste.
And to prep the winter melon, did you peel it?
Yes, so I didn't show that part, but so here's the winter melon. You can tell it's a gourd, so it has a thick skin and it has seeds and membrane in the middle. So you just want to cut this one out here. You just want to scoop out the seeds and yeah, definitely you want to peel the skin away. So has everyone taken their chicken out already?
Let's take a look. I don't see any chickens on people's screen yet. Oops. In Crystal, I see stuff happening.
Yeah, so you can even just, I mean, if you don't want, I'm going to show you how to take it off the bone. It's a little bit trickier with a chicken drumstick, but you can even eat it just as is. On the bone, it's okay.
Ooh, and Gladys, I see a beautiful view of bird's eye view of the chicken. Thank you. And from Nadia, they say that their chicken is out. The rice is smelling amazing, especially with the pandan.
Excellent, nice.
And right now, I do see Rob has his hand up for a question.
Sure,
Is it okay if we take a question right now?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Go for it, Rob.
Are you actually by a chef by profession? I just wonder, like, you're making this dish today. Just apart from the recipe, what's the actual name of the dish you call it?
It's called a Hainanese chicken rice. And Hainan chicken rice.
Hainanese chicken wings. Oh, very good. Do you sometimes put tomatoes or other things like beans in or anything like that as well as added things or onions?
It's just a dish of chicken and the rice and some, yeah, I mean, you can have some raw vegetables on the side. Yeah, I mean, you feel free to make it however you like. I think Alice was saying that she's a pescatarian, so I said definitely you can make a non-chicken chicken rice, I think, with like nice mushroom stock and some king oyster mushroom. But like, as you can see, like the ginger scallion sauce is you know, a main component, and it really flavors everything. You can eat just plain rice. It's really beautiful.
Are you a chef by profession? Is that what you are? A chef by profession? Is that your, you know?
Yeah, I've been cooking for about 18 years or so.
Oh, 18 years. You work in a restaurant, particularly a type of restaurant, or just?
Yeah, since I was in high school, I cooked in some restaurants, and then after I decided I really wanted to go into graphic design, but then I changed my mind and took cooking school and cooked overseas a little bit, and here I am here.
Yeah, so if I could get your dish online, I will consider trying to make it, perhaps. Because I'm always trying to learn some new things myself, and I wish you well with things, and thank you for preparing the dish today.
Thank you for joining.
I see Brody has his hand up too. Can we take one more question?
Yes.
Oh, well, I just was wondering if instead of regular rice, because I like sticky rice, can you ever, instead of regular, can you make sticky rice?
You can definitely eat it with sticky rice, but sticky rice traditionally you just soak it in just so there's a couple different ways you can eat sticky rice. You can literally just soak it in water overnight, steam it in a net. The other thing you can do is you can use a mixture of jasmine rice and sticky rice, and you get that same texture. That would work really well as well. And cook it the exact same way.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So right now I have the soup simmering on a low heat. So just some chicken, nice chicken broth, lots of ginger, some winter-melon. And now I think we can start to finish the dish, and I'll show you how to break down some chicken legs and thighs.
And I have a question from Crystal, who wants to know, when do we add the sesame oil?
Yeah, so this is the time we're gonna add the sesame oil. So we're gonna take the chicken out of the liquid. Get your sesame oil ready. So you can do this with or without sesame oil, but recently I found it really adds a nice fragrance to the chicken. So just kind of rub it, kind of massage the chicken with a little bit of sesame oil. Not too much.
Yes. It's muted. It's unmuted.
So we're just going to take the backbone here. So you can just serve it as is. Like if you don't want to cut the chicken, you can definitely eat it like this with the sauce. For me, I like to take it off the bone. So I just take the leg off, and then behind the thigh, I just follow the bone a little bit, and then kind of press the bone out.
Ooh, and for everyone who's looking for pandan, I see that RC has some recommendations that they found at T&T or other kind of Asian grocers.
And sometimes you can even find it in the frozen section as well. But you definitely want to use whole leaves. You don't want to use, like, sometimes you can find like pandan extract. That's very different. Those are used for a lot of desserts and coloring.
And Janie wants to know if she can fry the chicken in the pan to crisp up the skin.
You can. I wouldn't recommend, like, I think one of the beauty of eating Hainanese chicken is like it's so tender and you lose the gelatin in the skin. Of course, you can fry it up. If you want to fry it up, I would recommend definitely drying it out overnight. So just put it in the fridge, skin side up, and just let it dry. And then the next day, it'll be easier to fry. So we're gonna put the dish together now. I did mention I just cut some simple cucumbers for garnish. And we just have a simple plate here. I'm just gonna pack, you can just do it loosely, you can put everything on the side, but I'm just gonna pack in a little bowl here so it looks nice.
Ooh, and we have maybe a somewhat controversial question from Alfie about air fryers, and do you recommend them from a chef's perspective?
Yeah, I've never used an air fryer, but I hear good things, so. I don't do a lot of frying inside my house, so I definitely think there's a place for them. Okay, so we just have some rice here. Just kind of lightly pack it in there. I'm just going to put some cucumbers here as well.
From Jennifer earlier about maybe whether your kids share your passion for cooking or what kind of hobbies do you share as a family?
We all have different interests. Like I really enjoy hockey, my wife not so much. We have a girl and a boy, so they do like to eat. So we like to eat together as a family. My daughter loves to do crafts with my wife, and yeah, I enjoy playing hockey with whoever wants to play. And my wife also plays piano, so we have a little bit of music in our background as well. And I play guitar. But cooking together is a great way to interact with your family. I do a little bit more cooking, and my wife does a lot more baking, so we share those different traits with our kids as well. So here is the chicken rice. How's the lighting? Okay.
I think I have a question from Deanna. Would this be a good time?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, Alison. How long have you been a chef for?
I've been probably been cooking for, I can't even remember, probably over 15 years. So the dish is pretty much ready. And we're just gonna put some sauce on it. You can serve it on the side if you like. And sometimes you like some hot sauce, so this is a chili garlic sauce or a sambal, all that. You can find that in any kind of Asian grocery store. Just put some on the side there. And that's what we made today.